Can I get Beth to tell me if she sees a blinking red button? All right, awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Taylor. Welcome to the YouScience Administration Setup and Tech session. And first of all, congratulations to all that are involved in the project, and a huge thank you for joining us in this pilot project for our students in middle schools across the state. Jim Taylor, I work with the secondary, post-secondary transitions team, principally focused on career exploration and guidance for pre-kindergarten through grad school and adult learners. I would like to introduce my colleague, Beth Wiggum.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Wiggum. I work at the Oregon Department of Education. I sit on a different team than Jim. I sit on the Standards and Instructional Supports team. So I'm with all the other content specialists. And my position supports career and college readiness, as well as comprehensive school counseling programs. And we're just really excited to have you here today. Thank you.
And I would like to share with you that we are going to have an open office hour every Wednesday from 3 to 4 for the remainder of this school year. So if you have any questions regarding the project, want to touch base, troubleshoot, brainstorm, anything that comes up, please don't hesitate. We'll continue to send that link out. I'll put it in the chat for today. It's not a registration link. You can just join anytime, any Wednesday from here through the end of the school year to the last week of June. 3 to 4 o'clock every Wednesday, office hours to help support this work. I'm going to pass to Amy Bradley from YouScience, who will introduce her team. I'll ask you folks, if you wouldn't mind terribly, to continue to put in your name, role, school, and region into the chat. Amy, before I get to you, I'm going to acknowledge our pilot project coordinators. I'm going to go around and recognize Regina. Would you please say hello from High Desert?
Hello, I'm Regina. What else do you need to know?
Hey, you're going to represent you're going to be running lead for the High Desert area. And Carla?
Hi, I'm Carla Clark from Southern Oregon.
Gina?
Gina Castro Brands, South Coast.
And I think I saw Beth jump in. Beth Molenkamp? Yep.
Hello, I'm Beth, and I'm up here in Washington County, East Columbia County with my friends.
And Debbie Johnson.
Hi, I'm Debbie Johnson. I'm the CT Regional Coordinator with Mid-Willamette Education Consortium.
And I have to tell everybody, Debbie, see what the reaction is. We sat side by side in choir at 11 years old in junior high all the way through high school.
That sounds
yep.
about right.
And walked into a meeting at a high school a couple years ago, and we know each other. So good to see you again. Thank you to all of our pilot project coordinators and all of the support that you are providing for this great experience. Okay, off to you, Amy, and into the tech session.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jim. My name is Amy Bradley with YouScience. I am one of the regional directors and so excited to work with you guys on this big project. I am the regional director for Oregon. So whether you're in this project or have other schools in Oregon using YouScience, they'll work with me as well. So very happy and love working with you guys. I'm preparing for rain, by the way, not snow where I live, just lots of rain. I'm over in North Carolina. However, I've got two other folks with me. They are in Tennessee. They might get some snow similar to you guys. So Jerica.mcmahan is with us. She is now going to be our new customer success manager for our Oregon schools. So she will be the one that helps you guys with nuts and bolts, implementing, training, anything that you need. She's got a full support team that helps her as well. So she's sitting in and listening during our time today. And then Ben Troxler is with us. So he is a customer success manager that has been with us for several years, leads a lot of our trainings, and I'm so happy he could join us, and he's going to lead our presentation today. So Ben, would you like to take it from here?
Absolutely, and I've been looking forward to this session for a couple of weeks now. I know Amy was really excited when this project came to fruition, and I was excited to hear about it and excited to be invited to speak to all of you. Am I correct that this particular project is going to deal mostly with 7th and 8th graders?
Yes, correct, exactly. Snapshot it is.
I just wanted to be sure of that. So I know Amy has done a great job already of building excitement with you just by talking about the YouScience mission, showing what students actually see when they complete those exercises and have a chance to explore those results. This session, I like Amy talked about nuts and bolts. That's how I think of the implementation webinar. But I think even it too can get you excited to take that next step and go ahead and implement, particularly when you see that the process is actually fairly simple from start to finish. And secondly, we have a wealth of resources for you that are going to help you be successful. In addition to that, we've got a success and a support team that will make sure that you're successful. So just want to say all of that on the front end, and let's see if I can successfully share my screen again, and we'll get started.
And we see it.
Perfect. As I go along, certainly there'll be time at the end to answer any questions you might have come up with along the way, but feel free also to use that chat feature or even unmute yourself and ask a question. I might ask Jim and Jerica and Amy to keep an eye on that chat in case I miss a question that comes in. Want to make sure we answer every question you have. Again, I'm Ben Troxler. I've been with YouScience about 1.5 years now as a customer success manager. And having completed YouScience myself, I uncovered that some of my aptitudes include being a numerical detective, a sequential thinker, and a blended energizer. These are actually aspects about myself that I already knew to some degree, but even at my age, it was helpful to complete YouScience and gain that language to talk about it and to be able to explain what it is that makes me unique. That's the kind of information and the kind of value that we are bringing to your students, and why we're so excited to have you on board. Just kind of a shape of this particular session. First, we're going to talk about things to keep in mind as you prepare to implement. How do you build buy-in with the students, with the parents, with other teachers? What kind of time considerations do you need to budget to have these students complete the assessments? We'll talk a little bit about technical requirements as well. And after we talk about those preparatory steps, I'm actually going to go into the admin portal that you will have access to and walk you through how the different tools work within that portal. As part of that, I'm going to highlight what we call our knowledge base. Sometimes we call it our resource library. That's where you're going to find all those tools I talked about to help you with your implementation. And of course, at the end, as well as along the way, love to answer any questions you have. So digging into those things that require a little bit of preparation, the first thing to mention is the readiness form. Maybe you've heard about the readiness form already. That is a very brief form that we ask schools to fill out once a year, and we do need one per school. And actually, let me show you what that looks like. Hopefully you can see the readiness form right now. You'll find that at youscience.com/ready. What this form does is just collect information, whether this is your first time with YouScience or whether you come back next year and implement with more students. What we're doing here is collecting that basic information we need to set your account up. You're not setting anything in stone with this form, but you're giving us information such as who at the school needs that admin access to help implement. Roughly how many students do you think you'll be implementing with? What's your implementation date? Any of that information can change, but we just like to have an idea on the front end so we get your account set up and can get you rolling for success. Once we receive this readiness form from you, we can usually have that processed within 1 to 2 business days. And once we do that, we'll email you back to let you know your account is ready. That email that we send will include reminders of best practices and next steps for getting students started. So we'll be taking care of you every step of the way. So I would say go ahead and in the next day or two, probably go ahead and fill out that readiness form. Even if you think it may be some time, a few weeks before you implement with your students, if you'll go ahead and get that form to us, we can get your account set up so that you can get going with your students at any time. So again, that's youscience.com/ready. That's the important step 1. Thinking about how to build buy-in, we do encourage you to take YouScience yourself and complete the brain games. You as an admin will have that option built into your admin portal. It's a matter of clicking a couple of buttons and you can actually take the brain games. But you might have colleagues too that want to complete the brain games. Maybe they don't need admin access. They don't need to monitor students' progress and results, but they want to see what it's like. They can go to youscience.com/request. And that is a very brief form that they fill out, basically just asking their name, email address, and what school they're associated with. What we'll do then is set them up a student style account and email them, and then they can complete those brain games and see what it is the students experience. Since we are dealing with middle schoolers, there is a bio page, and I'm going to show you all this once we dig into the admin portal. There's a bio page that's the first step when a student completes the brain games, and you'll do the same thing if you want to complete the brain games. If you want to see the middle school version, to see exactly what your 7th and 8th graders are seeing, when you fill out that bio, you'll want to indicate that you are a 7th or 8th grader. Otherwise, the system is going to recognize that you're an admin and are high school or above, and you'll get the high school version, which is a little bit longer. There are a few more exercises. The results are a little bit more detailed. Maybe you want to see that, that's fine too. But if you want to see exactly what the middle schoolers see, do indicate that you are a 7th or 8th grader when you fill out that bio. And again, I'll show you that in just a bit. Thinking about, how much time do you need to budget? You want to plan for a total of about an hour and a half. That's 60 minutes to complete those 6 brain games. And then we recommend setting aside a day to have a 20 to 30 minute walkthrough of the results to help the students understand what it is YouScience is telling them about themselves. A note about those exercises: they do not have to be completed all in one session. Asking 7th and 8th graders to sit and stay committed for 60 straight minutes is a big ask. So it's probably most common to break that up into 2 or 3 class sessions. There's no time limit there. Once the student starts the exercises, maybe they complete them within a week or within 2 weeks, or maybe they don't complete it until the next month. It's totally fine. Their results are still going to be valid. So you can make that scheduling work for you. In our knowledge base that I'll be sharing with you, there is a technical requirements checklist. This is something that you can pass on to your IT team, and it just gives them the information they need to make sure that the YouScience domain is whitelisted, and that helps make sure your students have the smoothest experience possible. I'll show you where to find that in the knowledge base, but if you haven't submitted that to your IT team yet, probably a good idea to do that before the students get started. And the last sort of technical thing to think about is that we do recommend Chrome as the browser to use for the most optimal experience. Safari and Firefox tend to work well. We don't hear a lot of hiccups with them. The one browser that we would say doesn't provide the best experience is Internet Explorer. Very often we find students run into hiccups when they do use Internet Explorer. So Chrome, if at all possible, but Safari or Firefox also are good. Also be aware that the exercises can be completed on a desktop, a laptop, or even on Chromebooks. The exercises don't work with mobile devices like phones or iPads. The screens just aren't big enough to support those exercises and ensure the psychometric validity that we know is so important in these. So just be aware of that as well. When you're thinking about building buy-in with your fellow educators, with parents, with the students themselves, within the knowledge base, we have a communication page. But even if you don't have admin access yet, or if you just want to see what it looks like, you can go to youscience.com/school tools. And on this page, we've got sort of a hub of communication tools for you. So whether you want to send out text messages or email blasts, we've got social media posts. These are all optionals, but I would encourage you to take a look and see what we've got here. You might want to use some of these to communicate about YouScience. And then I particularly like those 3 options at the bottom, the ones in green. These are really for the parents. So you can share this link with the parents because it will answer some of their questions. I really love the conversation starters page. For a parent who may not yet be super familiar with YouScience, we give them open-ended questions so that they can still have that meaningful conversation with their students about their results. Some of those questions are, were there any talents YouScience uncovered that you didn't know you had? Were you aligned to a career that you'd never thought about? So really great questions to help foster that conversation so the parent can be engaged with the student. So youscience.com/school tools. It's also in the knowledge base, so you can find it there as well. I touched on this a little bit. The takeaway here is that the platform is flexible, so make it work for you. As I said, if you have the time and the bandwidth, and if you think your students can handle it, there's no reason that they can't complete all 6 exercises in one session. As I said, it's probably more common to break that up over 2 or 3 class periods, so they're only doing a few exercises a day, and that's fine too. We even have some schools who might have the students complete part of the exercises during class time, and the remaining exercises they will assign as homework. If you go that route, certainly you'll want to indicate a due date to make sure those students do complete. So again, use that flexibility in the way that's going to work for you and your students. I want to talk just a little bit too about those situations if you have students with learning differences, IEPs for instance. Sometimes we are asked, is there a different version of YouScience that provides accommodations, fewer exercises or longer time lengths for those exercises? And we actually only have one version of YouScience. Keep in mind, this is not a test that they're going to get scored on in a pass or fail way. What we're doing is highlighting those talents, and all students have talent, so there's no way to do badly on YouScience. However, there are some accommodations you can make if you have those students who might benefit from them. One of our suggestions is, rather than taking 2 or 3 days to complete those exercises, maybe you have the student complete just 1 exercise a day, so they're not spending more than 5 or 10 minutes on YouScience. It may take them 2 weeks to complete the full battery of brain games that way, totally fine. Their results will still be valid. So that's something you could consider doing. Each of the exercises as well, and you'll see this if you complete them yourself, they start with written instructions and also a couple of sample questions so the student can get accustomed to using the trackpad or the mouse and seeing exactly what it is the questions do. But you may have those students who benefit from hearing those instructions rather than just reading them. So consider reading those instructions at the beginning of each brain game and use that as a time to check and make sure the student understands what is expected. If you have noise canceling headphones or maybe larger monitors from the students who would benefit from that, certainly make use of those. And if you're trying to, if you're considering a particular student and you're trying to decide, is YouScience an appropriate tool for them? Our rule of thumb is that it's best for a student who can handle typical grade level work. Again, we want to uncover the talent of as many students as possible. And if that student can complete typical grade level work with reasonable accommodations, they can expect to complete YouScience and get meaningful results from them. And it's also worth mentioning that using those positive results about their aptitudes can help you as you're writing transition plans. So just some things to keep in mind. And we've got this document again in the knowledge base. I mentioned that ideally you would want to set aside 20 to 30 minutes for a results review. Several ways you can do this too. The first option is that we do have as a resource for you some lesson plans. I've got some colleagues here at YouScience who have actually been in the classroom as teachers, as counselors, and they have done a fantastic job of coming up with assignments that you can actually have your students complete that cause the students to dig into those results. Some of them are activities that are just 2 or 3 minutes and can be done in a class period. Some of them are more appropriate as homework, a longer term project. I'll show you what some of those are, but that's one way to go about it. Another way you might consider going over the results is doing breakout groups. Maybe that's even in a virtual setting, like a Zoom call. But if you have just a small group of, say, 4 to 6 students, for instance, not only can you go over their results with them and bring that meaning, but I think that can also be helpful for the students to see their peers and how some of their aptitudes are similar and some of their aptitudes are different. And maybe their career alignments are similar in some ways and different in others. It really helps drive home that point that each of us is unique and contributes something unique to the workplace. And if you have the bandwidth to do so, hard to beat a one-on-one conversation with the student about results. We understand not everyone has time for that, and maybe you don't do that with every student, but if you do have time and if you have a student that could benefit from that one-on-one conversation, certainly that's a great way to do it. Within your admin portal, you can actually pull up a student and impersonate him or her and look at those results in real time with them. So let me actually go now. I've given a lot of information, so before we jump into the admin portal, any questions about those preparatory steps that I just went over? Whether it's creating buy-in or thinking about time constraints? if you do come up with a question, again, use that chat feature, or feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself.
And this is Jim. I just want to reiterate that pilot project coordinators and school ambassadors and regions will be working together to use those resources available through YouScience, but also the development of things that are unique to the Oregon experience and to your schools and regions. So we'll continue to house those in the Oregon Open Learning site, and there'll be lots of information flowing back and forth between folks on that. So look forward to that. And we're still watching the chat if anybody has a question, and again, unmute yourself for questions out loud.
Super. Thank you, Jim. So now let's actually look at that admin portal and what that looks like. So again, when you fill out that readiness form, one of the things we'll be doing is setting up admin accounts for you and for whoever else you say needs that admin access. When you do have that account and you log in, this is what you're going to see. A welcome message, and the top 3 tiles here in that sort of reddish orange, these are your primary admin portals that you're going to be using. The 4 tiles you see under that, those are actually my YouScience results. If you want to complete the YouScience brain games yourself, this first tile will say, I believe it says take YouScience profile. Now, if you just click on that and start going, it's going to automatically give you that high school and up version. And again, if that's what you want to complete and see what that's like, absolutely feel free to do that. If you want to see exactly what your students experience, this is where you're going to want to fill out that bio and indicate that you are a middle schooler. The way to do that is to click on that icon in the upper right next to your name, the little silhouetted person. When you click on that and select my account, here's your bio page. You'll fill out the same kind of information your students will fill out. And notice toward the bottom, this is where you indicate what you're doing now. This is where, if you want to take the middle school exercises, you would select that you are in middle school. And in the field below, you would want to indicate that you are in 7th or 8th grade. Once you do that, it'll give you the option to click that green Let's Get Started button, and then you can complete the exercises. So that's how to get the middle school version. So let's dive into the admin dashboard. That's that first tile. So this is where you're going to go to actually do those functions, from getting students started to monitoring their monitoring their progress, rather, viewing their results. When you click on that button, this is what you'll see. If you happen to be an admin for multiple schools like I am, you'll have a drop down in the upper left. If not, you won't see that drop down menu. I'm going to go ahead and switch to our middle school demo account. So you see several tiles here. I want to talk through briefly what each of those does. So the big question is, how do students get started with YouScience? And the way the students get started is with a unique activation code. It is an 8-character, unique, one-time use only activation code. And that's what the student uses to create his or her unique account. We have 2 different ways that you can get that activation code in the student's hands. You might choose to upload those activation codes, however many you want, unassigned. So there's no name, there's no email address to them. What you can do then is access that list of codes and manually distribute it to the students. The students then take that code and go to a specific URL. They use that code to create the account. So a reason you might choose to do that is you don't have to upload any student information ahead of time. It saves you a little time. Some people feel that's an easier of the 2 methods. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is when you upload those codes, it's a spreadsheet that I'll show you, and you actually have the option of entering the student's name and email address. If you decide to enter that information, go ahead and upload the student information. What it will do is set up email invitations that you can push out to the students at the time you decide to do so. When the student receives that email, it just says, congratulations, you've got an account waiting on you. Click here to get started. So you do have to do a little legwork with that method. But the advantage is it's a little bit easier for the student because they just click a link. You don't have to worry about them miskeying the activation code or accidentally distributing the activation code to multiple students. That is to say, the same code to more than one student. Either method works. It's just which you want to pursue with your students. Either way, the way you do that is with the bulk invite students option. When you click bulk invite students, it will give you the option to download a spreadsheet template. And that spreadsheet template looks like this. So here you see column B, C, D, and so forth. Notice that it's all optional. So you would fill those fields out if you did want to set up those email invitations, include the student's name and email address. What is required is the group name. Students are grouped within your portal. It really can be however you want to group those students. You can even just choose to have all your students housed in one group. That's up to you. As a best practice, we recommend grouping them by their class. So for instance, class of 2024, class of 2025. One of the reasons we suggest that is if you choose something like homeroom, which some schools decide to do, that is an element of the student's experience that might change from this year to next year, or even by semester. And then trying to locate them later on can be a little bit of a challenge. Whereas class of 2025, that element is not likely to change for the student. So just an idea for you, but again, you can use whatever groups you want. So when it comes time to upload the codes, you would fill in that first field. So in my example, I'm doing class of 2025. And then I want to fill that field out for as many codes as I want. For instance, if I want 20 codes, I want to fill class of 2025 down 20 cells. Technically, I should have gone down to 21, but that's the idea. If you are going to distribute those activation codes, leave them unassigned, and have the student go to the URL and do that legwork themselves, that's all you have to do. If you do want to set up email invitations, that's where you would copy and paste or otherwise fill out. I can't even spell my own name when people are watching. That's where you fill out the name and email address of each student. And again, doing that is going to allow you to create an email invitation where the student just clicks a link. Whichever way you go, whether you leave the name and email address blank, or whether you go ahead and fill that out, once you've done that, you would save this document. I won't actually do it in this case, but you'd save the document. And then back in your admin portal, you would upload that spreadsheet. Upload, you choose the file that you just created, pick the correct one. And then once you've selected the file, then you will click the upload button. That upload button will turn green for you once you've selected a file. And the great thing about the system is if you don't have a group by that name already, so in my example, if I don't have a group class of 2025, the system will create that group for me and it will add those 20 codes. If I already have a group called class of 2025, the system will not create a new group, it will just add those codes. It's really smart that way. So that way, if you add codes to a class, you can always go back and add them later if you need to. So to me, that's probably the trickiest part of the whole process. And really, once you do it and kind of see it in action, I think it makes sense. Any questions about what I just did? If not, I'll show you the next part of that. Once you've created however many groups, in this Manage Groups tile, that's where you're going to find those groups. So in this demo account, we've created 3 groups. And notice that there's a green View Group button for each of those. If I click on that View Group button, I can kind of get an overall view of this class. Now, this is a demo account, so it's not as robust as yours will be. We also have a lot of fun with our demo names. So Lawn Chair here has his results ready. If I had other students in various stages of completion, I would see that whole list of students here. If I see results ready, that tells me they've completed the exercises. I might see in progress, which lets me know this student has started the exercises, still has a way to go. So that's one way to kind of view a particular class or a particular group and see what their progress is. At the top here, you've got different headings too. So you see that pending invitations right in the center. If I've uploaded codes, whether they're blank or whether I've assigned student names to them, but those codes haven't been activated yet, I can get a quick view of those here. So if I click on pending invitations, so in this example, we had uploaded a spreadsheet without names and email addresses. Each of these codes is so far unused and is available to distribute to students. So I think one of these might have a few more. Yeah, so here's a good example. I just looked at another group, and in this group, I have several students, and this kind of shows you, I've got a few that have results ready. I've got one that's got BioComplete, one is in progress. And again, pending invitations at the top, I have some codes here that are still up for grabs. By the way, I should mention, if you do decide to fill in the names and email addresses in order to set up those email invitations, it won't actually send those emails out to the students. It will just set them up so that you can decide when you actually want to push them out. When you are ready to do that, if you decide to go the route of email invitations, again, I'm going to click on View Group. And when I go to Pending Invitations, notice there's a checkbox to the left, and I can check that student, or I can check multiple students, or I can even select this top box to select all students. Once I've selected the students to whom I want to send that email, notice that I've got these green buttons at the top, one of them being Send Invitation Email. So I can click that button and it will push that email out, whether I've selected one or whether I've selected the whole group. So the other,
Ben,
yes.
Ben, I'm sorry, this is Amy. Let me, if I could stop just for a moment. I think there were a couple of questions through chat and maybe some folks out there about having access. So basically, you guys are ready to go. As soon as you fill out the readiness form, that is what we need to set up your account. So all of you guys as participants, you guys can go ahead and do that after this session. Complete that readiness form, submit that to us. It'll take us just a day or two to get that processed. And as Ben mentioned earlier, then you will receive your access to your administrative portal. Carla, did that answer your question?
Yes, and the last question is, will they get an email to notify them, or should they just check back in soon if they don't have access yet?
They will get an email. Yes, one of our support team members will send the email as soon as they've set up the administrative portal for that school. Then they will get the email.
Thanks. Sorry for interrupting. I think that we just have some people trying to like maybe catch up and follow along, and maybe they can't yet. So if that's you, relax and just follow along watching, and otherwise you'll have your access soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm going to jump in for a second. Also, this is Jim. This is a lot coming quickly. This will be recorded, and we will have it turned around and delivered to everyone that's present. I have access to your emails, so you'll get a recording of this. We'll also pull notes and kind of step by step through the highlights of the meeting. So that'll be a deliverable that we can also email to you. Further, I do want to differentiate, Amy, confirm if this is true. When a lot of folks here have taken the exercises and they have what they consider to be their YouScience account, now as they become an administrator, they're going to have an account which is a completely different access point, or will it be the same? So can we clarify that for folks?
Provided that their existing account is under the same email address that they provide us on the readiness form, basically what we'll do is upgrade that existing student style account to an admin account. Yeah, we want to keep it as simple as possible for you. And these results that they currently have will then live in their admin portal. They'll still have access to it. Great question.
Okay, and then additionally, I'm going to use Brian as an example. Brian's working with a group of schools and is sitting at the ESD, and he'll want to have a look-see at some data. And so he's thinking then, and I'm thinking, you know, how might I have access to schools? And we noticed on your screen, you have multiple administrative access points on your toggle. Is that same thing possible for our school ambassadors, for our pilot project coordinators, and so forth?
Absolutely. I think of one district in Tennessee where I work closely. She's a district contact person who has access to over 40 of her schools. So there's no limit to the number of schools that you can be admin for. There is also not a limit to the number of admins that can be over one school. I hope I said that clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have 2 admins, 1 admin, 10 admins, 20, just whatever is needed for you.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And keep continuing to put questions and comments in the chat, folks, and we'll keep getting those answers for you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Amy.
Jim, this is Regina. Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes, please.
So if we have access to all the schools' portals, how does that work? Do we have to fill out the ready form as well as a district?
No, if we just need one contact from each school, ideally, one contact from each school to fill out the readiness form for that school. So if you're someone who needs admin access to several organizations, maybe the best thing to do is to email us and say, and let us know what schools you need admin access for. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because I'm a similar position as Brian is in Southern Oregon. So we work with several school districts and we have school ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was wondering, do we get a sign-in as well, just to test some of this out if we need to help our school ambassadors?
Right, if you have admin access, you will be able to get in, and if you needed to, you could get students started. You can view students' results. You can run the insights, which is our analytics report. You can complete the exercises yourself if you wish. So almost anything that you'd want to do within the platform, if you have admin access, you can do that.
So then I would sign up also as a school ambassador.
School ambassador is it's a term we use to signify that key contact at that school. That's the person we're going to communicate directly with to talk about their specific time frame for implementing any help that they might need. But you don't need to be signified necessarily as an ambassador. If you just say, I need access for this list of 10 schools or 20 schools, we can just set that for you.
Okay, then I can just work in one of those schools. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Sure. And thank you for keeping an eye on the chat, because I did not notice those. So we talked about using the bulk invite feature to get those access codes set up. I showed you the manage group feature. Related to some of the questions that have just been asked, we recently added a new feature here called Manage Organization. So you can actually add additional admins yourself. You're always welcome to contact us and give us that information. But if you know you've got a teacher that needs admin access, all you need to do is click on Manage Organization. And at the top, you will enter that person's email. Maybe you need to enter multiple emails and click Add. Once you've added that person, then you'll want to be sure to click Save Changes at the bottom. If you do that, you enter their email address and click Save Changes, that will generate an email to them to let them know you are the latest admin for Central High School or whatever the case may be. And then they can click on that link and have that admin access. So, the engagement report is going to be very useful to you when you're trying to get an idea of the health of your students in terms of their YouScience completion. When you click Download Engagement Report, it's going to give you the option to look at a single group, for instance, class of 2025. Maybe I just want to look at that grade. Or if I want to look at my whole school, all the groups that I have, I can choose that as well. If you, when you make your option, select your option, you'll get a spreadsheet. There we go. It's a fairly simple spreadsheet, but it's a great way for you to kind of see how your students are progressing. Let me widen those columns so you see. You'll see the students' names and the group each student belongs to, email address. Where you'll really want to focus is column F. This is where you see what their status is. So any student who has results ready, they've completed the exercises, they're good to go. They can log in and view those results. Anything other than results ready lets you know they are somewhere else in the process. So this might help you zero in on those students who might need a little bit of a nudge to go ahead and complete those exercises. And this will help you ensure that you have successful implementation and completion of those exercises. So I think that'll be a great tool for you. You can run that, as many times as you need to, as often as you need to. And then the last thing I wanted to show is the Get Students Started option. So a couple of ways this can be used. If you decide to upload unassigned codes that you want to distribute yourself to the students rather than doing the email invitation, I showed you that you can go in the group and see those codes by clicking on the pending invitation header at the top. But if you want to download a spreadsheet of all those codes, you click on Get Students Started and select Download Activation Codes. It's the same information we just looked at when we were looking in the group, but this will just put it in a spreadsheet form. So you can select your class, click Download. There we go. And then it will give you a spreadsheet. My activation codes are in column E. So these are the codes that I'm going to distribute, one to each student. And then I will direct them to a specific URL to activate their accounts. By the way, when you get that email from us, after we process your readiness form, it's going to go over all of this for you again. So don't feel like you must commit all this to memory right at this moment. We'll send you reminders of how to do it, instructional videos, where the students need to go. Just wanted to today show you kind of how it works. The other option here under Get Students Started is Manage Invitations. So this is really useful if you have just maybe one student you want to invite. Maybe this is someone who came to your school later, or you accidentally left them off that first round, and you don't want to go through the process of downloading a spreadsheet template and uploading it just to get 1 or 2 students started. If you click on Manage Invitations, you can select the group you want to invite a single student to, and here you will enter that student's name and email address. And once you've done that, you can click on the green invite button. That will send a one-off invitation just to that student. So be aware that's there if you ever do have that situation where you're just trying to invite 1 or 2 students. Maybe that is probably a little easier than going through the spreadsheet template process. So that in a nutshell is your admin portal and those different functions there. Notice I should have mentioned this earlier, there is a drop-down menu in the upper left. So if you need to navigate to the different areas of your account, this is where you'll go. So when I go back to my home screen, I've talked a lot about the knowledge base. It's that top center tile. Make this your best friend because we have all sorts of tools to help you. If you click on knowledge base, it's going to give you several options to represent the different tools we have at YouScience. For this particular platform we're talking about today, it's the Career Guidance by YouScience. If you click on that, here you're going to find that wealth of resources I keep talking about. And notice we do have different headers to give exactly the resources each kind of institution would need. So you'll scroll down to middle school resources. Notice that I can click on See More, and it's going to open up all the full options for me. I won't take time to go through each of these because there is so much there, but take some time to peruse this resource library. You'll find a lot of helpful hints here, a lot of tips, a lot of tools you can use. But I wanted to specifically highlight the admin portal tutorials. So when you're trying to remember, how is it that I upload codes, or what's the difference between activation codes and email addresses, and you know, anything you need to know how to do, these admin portal tutorials will show you. Excuse me. There are articles here to let you know how to do everything within the portal. Each of these includes not only written instructions, but it will also include a quick video to kind of walk you through that specific function. So be aware that that's there, and that can be a fantastic help to you. Another thing I wanted to point out is the lesson plans. So I mentioned that we have some ideas for you to give activities to your students to really help them dig into those results. So it's not just something they complete and look at once. They actually get in there and start to make some connections. So take a look at these. These are optional. These are ideas. You may read one of these and say, that's a great idea, but I think I want to pivot and do something a little different. You want to put your own spin on it. Please feel free to do that. And I would add to that if you do come up with something creative and it really works well with your students, let us know that. We're always looking for new ideas that we can add to this resource library. So let us know, understanding that we may steal that idea and it may show up here in our lesson plans. But again, take a look at those and let this spur your creativity to how you can get those students really into those YouScience results. I mentioned the technical requirements checklist. Under the implementation planning, that very first link, among the other things you'll find here, it's right kind of in the middle there, that technical requirements checklist. So this is what you would want to pass on to your IT team. You know, it's not a lot for them to have to do, but it just gives them, again, that whitelisting information to make sure that students do receive the emails if that's how you send out the activation codes, and that they are able to access the site. It also reminds about Chrome being the best browser and other things that will be helpful to them and to you. So I just want to show you where that is. You might even consider just bookmarking this page, just so it's a quick resource for you that you can always refer back to. We're just proud of it, frankly. We've gotten a lot of good feedback, particularly as we've added resources this past school year. We've gotten a lot of happy folks who have indicated that this has been a real help for them. So let it be a help for you too. And then the last thing I really wanted to show you, we're good on time, is this insight. So if you click on insights, that's going to take you to reporting options. And again, because I'm admin for several schools, it's showing me several options. You may only have one school here, but once you find that school, let me move my view here. So I'm going to select YouScience Middle School in the lower right corner. That's my demo account. Once I do that, then it shows me the cluster report that I have available to me. Notice you can run an advised style or a recruiting style. The thing to know is each of these styles of report is going to give you the exact same information. It's just they're going to lay out the information a little bit differently. And where that comes into play is if you want to run a CSV spreadsheet of your individual student results, which you can do here, the recruit is a little bit more friendly. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Personally, just for viewing, I like the advise style. When you click generate report, there are three main sections to the report. The first one just gives you a glimpse of demographic information. How many male versus female, what's the ethnicity makeup of the students who completed, what are their graduation years. As I said, because it's a demo count with only 3 students, yours is going to look a lot more robust. But after that demographic section, there's a summary fit by cluster. So this is giving me that aggregate information to show me among the clusters, how many of my students show a high aptitude fit, how many show a high interest fit for that cluster, and then you even see a ratio there to help you quickly see where is their misalignment. By misalignment, I mean, where are those areas where students have a lot of aptitude but not a lot of interest yet, or vice versa. Very typically, it's going to be in arts and media that you're going to find your students have a lot of interest relative to the number who have high aptitude. Very often engineering, computers and technology, those are clusters where there's a lot of aptitude but not a lot of interest yet. It makes sense when we think about the things that 13, 14-year-olds are interested in. So some of the ways this can be helpful to you when you find those misalignments, if you're planning a career fair, for instance, you might want to showcase those careers that fall in those high aptitude clusters. So if I've got students with a lot of talent in agriculture and natural resources, I want to spotlight that as part of my career fair. Or if you're thinking about bringing in a guest speaker, that can also be a great way to use this analytics tool. Again, in this demo, I'm seeing a high number of aptitude fit for agriculture and natural resources. So maybe I want to bring in a speaker from that industry. Then the third section of the report gives me that per student information. So again, having fun with our names, Mr. Not Real here is in that top block. And there in a quick glimpse, so if I'm having that one-on-one conversation with the student, I can actually look across and see his top 3 aptitude fit clusters and his top 3 interest fit clusters. One way to use this to your advantage is to see if there's any overlap there. So for instance, this student, I see that arts and media shows up both as an aptitude fit and an interest fit. So that might be a great starting point for a conversation with this student to say, hey, not only do you have talent in the arts and media cluster, you've also got some interest there already. Let's explore that. Let's see what some of the careers are in those clusters. So just some ideas for different ways you can use this analytics report. So real quickly, notice that each student kind of occupies one block, and within that block, I've got all the information. I bring that up because I want to show you the difference between the advise and recruit style. If I run a recruit style of the report, same layout. There's demographic information, which is identical to the one we just looked at. The aggregate information is the same. Where it's different is this bottom section where it gives the student information. It's just laid out differently. You notice my student not real instead of being in one block. We've got one block to show each of those aptitude and interest fits. And again, where this is going to be most useful to you is if you do opt to export to CSV. See that in the upper right? Because we've got individual line items, that spreadsheet is going to be more useful to you for sorting and filtering and playing with that data. Other than that, the reports are identical. I believe that is just about everything that I wanted to share with you about implementation. I've already talked about our knowledge base and where you can find all those helpful resources. It's one of the tiles you can click. To just reiterate next steps, we kind of talked a couple of times already about that readiness form, youscience.com/ready. Any faculty who want to take YouScience but don't need admin access can go to youscience.com request, and they can fill out the form there. And then I've got some information there about our customer support team. They are fantastic. In fact, the joke I've started making is anything I can do, they can do better. They are available to you via chat. So in the lower right corner of every page of YouScience, you don't even have to be logged in. If you just go to youscience.com, there's a chat icon in the lower right. Click on that icon and you'll be connected to a live agent who can help you with just about anything. So that's especially helpful if you're having something that needs a quick fix, like a login trouble or can't remember a password, that kind of thing. So they're available Monday through Friday during normal business hours. If it's something that's outside of business hours or maybe isn't quite as urgent, you could also email them at support@youscience.com and they'll answer you as soon as they're able to. And you could also give us a call at 801-653-9356. So we want to make sure that with our resource library and with our support agents that we are here and able to assist you in any way that we can. You've been so patient and let me just talk about YouScience. What questions do you have that you'd like to ask? Maybe something that I could clarify or something I didn't cover that you'd like to know?
And this is Jim again. I'd really like to encourage people to ask the questions that are percolating in your head, because if you've got one, I guarantee 10 people in the room have it also. So do not hesitate to ask any questions you have.
There's one in the chat.
One in the chat. Are there any auto rostering options or SSO via systems like ClassLink?
Amy might want to chime in if she knows additional information. That is something on a bit of a hot list for us. That's something that we want to be able to do, to have that single sign-on integration. And we are this close and just not quite there yet. I don't know, Amy, if you have additional insight on that.
Yeah, Ben, exactly. You're right. We're really close with it. It's actually one of the reasons why we did go to the spreadsheet form temporarily, so that you could copy and paste, 100 students, 200. We have a school in Illinois that, they have 4,500 students in their high school. And so they use that spreadsheet. That's why we created that temporarily, to make it easier to mass upload into the system until we can get those different SSO systems aligned. Thank you for asking. Hopefully better answer soon.
While folks are thinking about what other questions I might want to ask, I want to go back, and I just realized something I neglected to show. And it may have been shown already in a results session, but just want to show you how you can pull up students within your portal and actually look at those results. Let me go back to the correct account here. In addition to being able to find individual students by clicking on Manage Groups and navigating to the group, you can quickly find any student with a search student profile in the upper right. So if I start to type in that student's name, do I want surely not or not real? Let's go with not real. And so I can see that student's information page. Notice that there is an impersonate button. So if I want to see exactly what the student is seeing, which will help me with the results walkthrough and conversation, if I click on impersonate, it's actually going to take me to that student's actual results. This is exactly what they see. So that can help as you walk through. When you're through looking at that student's results, notice there's a red stop impersonating button in the upper right. So click on that and it'll take you right back to your admin portal. Wanted to show that really quickly because I meant to show that earlier.
And I certainly want to jump into the value of that is that if you have a stream of students in a class moving through in quick conversation, you have the ability, you don't have to log them in, log them out. You can just open up their access. Is that correct? That looks like a great opportunity for conversation.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, again, we know that was a lot, so we're going to do that follow-up for you, which will include a link to the video of this recording. We will go through and capture highlighted issues that were brought up and things to be aware of and get that out in an email to everyone as well. Your pilot project coordinators are learning alongside of you. Beth and I will be available in office hours. That link, again, will be sent in an email so that you can just kind of maybe create a recurring meeting for yourselves on Wednesdays from 3 to 4 if things come up. YouScience is obviously offering some great supports in the chat and in their tech assistance. We're looking for any final questions that you might have. Okay, so if folks don't have additional questions, if you want to throw your camera on and say a goodbye, that would be great. Can we offer our thanks, please, with a waving of the hands and smiling faces and thumbs ups to Amy and Ben and Jerica for joining us today. Thank you so very much to our pilot project coordinators. Ben, if I could ask you to stop share, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. And let me thank Gina for her comment. She says it's extremely user-friendly. Most programs do not give this much assistance. So appreciate your saying that.
All right. Well, last round of everybody getting ready for the cold weather. I hope you all do well with that. And certainly I know many of you are either just getting back into school or looking forward to that with many of your kiddos. So we're certainly thrilled to see that starting to take place. It's got its good and bads, but we know the kids are looking forward to the opportunity as well. So thank you so much again, Amy, Ben, Jerica. Thank you to our pilot project coordinators. Beth and I will stay on for a few minutes here if you do have any questions you want to ask specifically. We wish you all a fantastic day and say thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. See ya.